This plane landed on the street and there were 3 strange jumps. Then the plane overturned and crashed. 2 crew members died on the spot. This is the United States Federal Express No. 80 flight failure. And this strange body bounce was called a seagull jump if it is not handled well. The structure of the aircraft will be damaged, heavy damage. In fact, similar situations have occurred in our civil aviation. For example, the South Airlines 3456 flight in 1997, the body of the plane bounced when it landed in Shenzhen, caused 35 deaths. For example, the 5759 flight in 2018, the plane also bounced when it landed in Macau. The plane was damaged, the crew chose to fly back, eventually successfully landed in Shenzhen. The accident only caused 5 people to be lightly injured. Today we will learn from the incident of the Federal Express No. 80 flight. What is the seagull jump? August the 23rd, 2009, No. 80 flight took off from Guangzhou Baiyun Airport, go to Tokyo Chenten Airport in Japan. The model is Mida 11, is the main model of the Federal Express. Most of them are modified after the passenger plane retired. Increase the length and width to improve it into a cargo plane. Only 2 pilots on that day carried out the flight mission of No. 80. They are Captain Kevin Mosley, 54, and Deputy Captain Anthony Pino, 49, after a whole night of flying. The plane arrived near Chenten Airport in Tokyo. The air traffic control allowed it to land on Route 34. The pilots began to land. But the airport was a little windy at the time, caused the plane to experience multiple ups and downs. But both pilots are experienced. Naturally, there is no worry about this kind of turbulence. The plane will soon be ready to land on the right track. At this time, they descend to a height of 4 meters per second. But when the landing gear touches the ground, but immediately bounced, then fell again, and bounced again. When the third bounce, the fuselage tilted to the left. The plane touched the ground and broke. Then the plane started to fire and rushed out of the runway. The fire instantly engulfed the cockpit. 2 crew members died on the spot. After the accident, the Japan Transportation Security Bureau was responsible for the investigation of the air crash. The investigators saw the tire marks on the fuselage at the first landing. This means that the plane landed too fast at the second tire mark. That's where the plane bounced for the second time. Many pieces of landing gear scattered around. It means that when the plane landed for the second time, the structure of the landing gear has been obstructed, so that the third bounce lost balance. The investigators are very clear. The bounce of the Federal Express No. 80 is the dolphin bounce. But there are many reasons for the dolphin bounce. What exactly caused the disaster of No. 80? With the decoupling of the black box, the recording of the cockpit made the investigators feel puzzled. The strange bounce of the Federal Express No. 80 is the dolphin bounce that people often talk about. There are many reasons for the dolphin bounce, usually divided into external factors and motional factors. The external factor is mainly caused by the weather, and the motional factor is often the pilot's improper operation. On the day of the landing of the Federal Express No. 80, there is a strong wind in the area of Kinmen, Japan, so the investigators suspect that the plane has a wind shear. The so-called wind shear refers to the sudden change in wind force and wind direction, a phenomenon that affects the attitude and sound of the plane. There is no big problem in the air, but if it's on the landing, it's very dangerous, because there is a limited space to adjust when landing. For example, the US Air Force's Flight 191 in 1985, a wind shear occurred when landing, caused the plane to crash. 137 people died after this accident. Most airports have installed Doppler radars. This radar can detect the risk of running near the runway in time, and give the pilot a timely feedback. The Tokyo Chenten Airport also installed this device. But investigators found out after checking the equipment records, there was no wind shear when the plane landed on the 80th. The external factor is ruled out. Is it that the reason for this accident is the pilot's improper operation? Just as the investigators were about to close, the data of the black box has been extracted. A recording of the cockpit gradually made the truth come to light. The cockpit recording shows that everything was normal before the plane landed. The last 30-second warning sounded. The plane kept broadcasting the current altitude, but the range of broadcast is very short. This means that the plane's descent rate is very high. It's more than twice the normal descent rate. So the first time the plane landed, it will leave a deep tire mark. So why did the plane go down so fast? The data of this flight recorder gave the answer. In general, when the plane descends to a distance of 9 meters from the ground, the pilot should pull the fuselage. This can slow down the speed of the plane, so that the plane lands smoothly, and this operation is called flattening. But the flight data shows, until the plane is about 6 meters away from the ground, the pilot just started to flatten. It's too late, because the plane will touch the ground in 2 seconds. However, earlier flight data shows, the pilot's error is not the only reason for the plane's slowdown. According to the flight data, when the plane is 50 feet away from the ground, the crew is focusing on getting the plane on the right track. But at this time the plane's automatic throttle, but quietly adjusted the throttle to slow down. This is equivalent to you not stepping on the throttle when you're driving. But the engine is still running, no power output, speed is gradually reduced, and two pilots didn't find this. The design of the Mardo 11 is more useful when the weather is stable. But there was a strong wind in the airport that day, so when the speed of the plane is reduced, the plane's power is not enough. So the plane's head is high, and the tail is low, so when it lands, it needs to be accelerated to increase the power to land smoothly. But the investigation found that the cause of the accident, it's actually because of a weird design of Mardo to save fuel. Engineers designed the tail of the Mardo 11 very small to reduce the resistance when flying. But this design will make the plane head high and tail low when it lands. The solution to the problem is to increase the speed. After acceleration, the airflow of the tail of the plane will increase. The tail of the plane can lift up and make the plane land smoothly. So the speed of the Mardo's modified model landing is faster than other technologies. For this, pilots who have been trained by special effects naturally know. So why didn't they do that? They didn't notice that the throttle was in slow motion, and the time to level off was 2 seconds late. The combination of the two factors led to an overspeed of the plane. In fact, when the plane first bounced, pilots still have a chance to save themselves. But the captain and the deputy captain made a fatal mistake at the same time. They all pushed forward, want to lower the plane head, and this operation also gave them the last chance. Although the push-pull operation can reduce the tail, but the plane also needs time to react, and the plane head will be down after the bounce. Pilots push-pull again will only make the plane head lower, so it hit the ground heavily. So the second bounce directly hit the landing gear. In fact, the bounce is not rare when landing. Many planes with too fast a deceleration rate are prone to this situation, but it usually doesn't cause serious accidents, because as long as the pilot operates properly, he can land safely. Experienced pilots will pull back after the first bounce. Make sure that the second landing is the main landing, but the safest way is to bounce for the first time, and then you can go straight to the next flight. Investigators later found that the crew on board were seriously insufficiently asleep the day before. They only slept for 3 or 4 hours. This is one of the reasons why they made a mistake after the emergency. This flight is like most flights. It's caused by the interaction of many factors. It's not just a matter of the plane or the pilot to make the plane fly more safely. You have to find every factor and implement the flight mission after improving the security.